Once upon a time, in a peaceful monastery nestled high in the mountains, there lived two monks. The first was an old monk. He wasn't a bad person, but over the years, his patience had worn thin. He was respected, yet feared, for he rarely smiled and often scolded the younger monks for the smallest of mistakes. Then there was the little monk, full of energy and curiosity. He was a clever one, always asking questions and exploring new ideas. Despite the old monk's harshness, the little monk admired him, but he also saw the heavy burden that the old monk's anger placed upon him. Now, there was one thing in the world the old monk truly cherished: a small, delicate ceramic cup. Every day the old monk would sit with this cup, sip his tea, and stare out over the valley below the monastery. It was said the cup had been with him for many years, a gift from his teacher. It represented peace, though, ironically, his attachment to it only seemed to feed his frustration with the world. One morning, as the sun rose and the monks went about their duties, the little monk found himself in the old monk's quarters, cleaning up as he was instructed to do. The old monk had left the room, leaving the cup on a table. The little monk, busy sweeping and wiping down surfaces, accidentally knocked the table. The cup wobbled, teetered on the edge, and in a flash, it fell to the ground. Crash. The cup shattered into 100 tiny pieces. The little monk's heart raced. He knew how much the cup meant to the old monk. He could already imagine the thunderous scolding that was sure to follow. But instead of panicking, the little monk paused. He picked up the pieces and thought to himself, "Maybe this is my chance. Maybe I can help my master to see things differently." When the old monk returned, his eyes immediately fell upon the broken shards. His face darkened, his jaw clenched, and you could almost see the storm brewing inside him. Before he could say a word, the little monk stood before him, holding the largest piece of the broken cup. "Master," the little monk said gently, his voice calm and respectful, "I'm sorry about the cup. I broke it." The old monk's eyes flared, his hands balled into fists, but before he could let his anger loose, the little monk quickly added, "Do you think it can be fixed?" The old monk stopped, confused by the question. "No," he growled. "It's broken. It cannot be fixed." The little monk nodded. "I see. So it cannot be made whole again?" "That's right," the old monk snapped. "Once something is broken like this, it is ruined forever." The little monk smiled softly and said, "Then maybe it's time to let go." The old monk blinked. "What do you mean?" "Well," the little monk said, his voice steady and wise beyond his years, "if the cup cannot be fixed, isn't holding on to the anger about it as pointless as trying to put it back together? It won't make the cup whole again." The old monk stared at the little boy, his mind whirling with thoughts he had never considered before. For years he had allowed his temper to control him, his attachment to things, to moments, to people, to his own past mistakes, just like this cup. And now, this child was standing here, gently showing him something he had never realized. The little monk knelt down and began gathering the shards of the cup. "Maybe it's time to let go of the cup, master. And maybe it's time to let go of the anger too." Silence filled the room. The old monk stood still for a long time, watching the little monk work. Slowly, his hands unclenched, and the storm on his face began to fade. He let out a long, deep sigh. "You're right," the old monk finally said, his voice quieter, softer than it had been in years. "The cup is gone, and holding on to this anger is as useless as trying to piece it back together." The little monk smiled up at him, a look of relief on his face. He had done it. Not only had he avoided the old monk's wrath, but he had also planted the seed of a new understanding in his heart. From that day on, something changed in the old monk. His temper didn't disappear overnight, but he grew calmer, more thoughtful. He no longer clung so tightly to things, whether they were cups or frustrations. And every now and then, when he felt the anger rising within him, he would look at the little monk and remember that broken cup and the simple wisdom that had come from it. And so, in that quiet mountain monastery, the old monk learned at last to let go.